anybody in my sort of really close circle knows I made some really, really difficult decisions around sport. I'm different. I'm English in the middle of Chicago. There's not a heap of us. There's a few of us, but there's not loads of us. And I'm like an old has-been trying to talk about the past, even though it's mine and I've done it, and you know how it is. And I had to work my butt off to get all that stuff. And I'm sure this was probably the same for yourself. Like, we get in these, especially when we're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. We live in these same groups, which is great. Those boys are the best. I'm still best friends with my guys from...
Hello, and thanks for tuning in today. This week's episode is brought to you in conjunction with Upskilled and their mini MBA. If you want to get the skills and knowledge to help move you forward without all of the big expense, then this mini MBA with Upskilled is the right way to go. Follow the link in the show notes and you can get $500 off. Josh, welcome to the show. Good to have you on here today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for sorting out the time difference and getting me in.
It's all good. It is the beauty of some of these conversations. I'm always keen to chat, and I'm like just trying to figure out what works out best. So I'm glad we've made something work to jump on a call again.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, all good. And well, actually, it's been a while since we caught up, and it's been me trying to get you on this show as well. For those watching and listening, just give us a quick intro as to who you are and sort of what you're up to primarily nowadays.
Yeah, so Josh Allan, the original, not the Buffalo Bills quarterback, and I played a little bit of rugby in my past, and I'm now the head coach of men's rugby at the University of Toronto here in Toronto. I'm obviously English, so started there. Moved across to the US, Chicago, and then moved up to Toronto and have been coaching sort of everywhere I've been after a bit of a career. And separate to that, I'm in the fitness and wellness game. So running gyms, personal training teams, seeing how we can sort of grow revenue, especially through personal training. And that's right, really a great add-on. And yes, that's where we're at. We're wellness, half wellness. Yeah. We are half coaching rugby.
Yeah, which is brilliant. And I think what I'm really looking forward to in the chat, and then, as we've been speaking, is I think I get a lot of athletes that I speak to who think, oh, maybe I'll go in PT, maybe I'll go into the gym industry and stuff like that, almost as a path. So I am keen to sort of break down your path into that world, which was perhaps less intentional than, and sort of that than everyone think. I shouldn't say less directive, I suppose, because it was sort of a journey for you to get into that area, right?
Yeah. So I went sort of the long way around, as I'm sure, and like, as I'm sure, we all do. Yeah. I'm sure it's a similar story for every athlete you get on. They're like, oh, this is it. I'm pro. I'm 17 years old. This is the rest of my career. So I stepped back from school. And then your career does what your career does, and things move and change. And I moved to Chicago at 20, so maybe 21. And me and a group of guys got into, it was around the time CrossFit was really hot. And these three guys were like, let's open a gym. And I was like, I've got no money, but I will work there. I'll grind my way into whatever you need me to. And between the four of us, three great guys in Chicago, and we grew this little CrossFit gym into, honestly, such a great gym, great community, great people. So that was sort of my first wellness step, fitness step. So teaching, taking some ownership, working my way into the manager and running the place. And then moved up here to Toronto and worked construction. So again, this is probably where school might have helped. But I jumped up here and I was like, oh, what do I know? What can I do physically day one? And I was a apprentice carpenter back at home, so I was like, I know how to swing a hammer, drill some holes. Went through that process, and then through a friend, got asked to visit an Equinox here in Toronto, and just to have a look around. I was very curious and walked in.
What's Equinox?
Oh, okay, yeah. So Equinox is probably one of your top 3 chains here in America, in the Americas. Their home base is New York, but they have clubs all around the country. They have clubs in London, and then they're looking actually in the Middle East to open up a big super club out there. And it's very premium, it's very luxury, it's very reputable. So again, walked in just expecting to sort of have a look at the place. Sat down with somebody, and they were like, "Look, would you be interested in working here?" I was like, oh, I've kind of been a personal trainer. I've done the training one-on-one stuff, and I'm looking for sort of something to get my teeth into, sort of career-wise.
Yeah.
And it ended up being that they were looking for me to manage their personal training team. I had enough experience through my gym, and I think the sport helps. Like I've been coaching since I was probably 13. So I've been dealing with groups of people constantly for 10 years up to that point, 15 years. So sat down, did the interview, very rigorous interview. I will tell you that. Like if anybody's out there going, I fancy Equinox, it's a rigorous interview system, especially in their managerial roles.
Interesting.
Must have been 3 rounds.
They've got a standard.
Oh, really high standard.
They've got a standard that they want to hit.
Yeah.
And try and make sure people fit that. Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I thought the process was great. It was thorough. They were looking to sort of personality assessments. They go really deep with what they do management-wise. And then you go through a big training period with those guys, and then eventually you're a manager there. And so that was I would say that's my first corporate job. And that was I was maybe 29, 30.
It's the, and I want to sort of pause there because now I want to take it back, because that's a great introduction how through rugby, through playing, through carpentry, through PT, what you've got to a point where you're stepping in to an extent, because I know part of the story, but unprepared into that interview, and yet everything that you'd done before had set you up, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me then about, let's get a sense then of you and sport. So where were you growing up? What sports were you playing? To give me some of that background.
Yeah, we'll flick over some of them.
Be specific. Be specific with where you were, because we can get Yorkshire now.
Okay. Place-wise, let's be really specific. So, born in a wonderful town called Halifax, in the north of England, just outside Leeds. For those listening anywhere else than Halifax, and I played. So my first sport was swimming. I was a swimmer since learning to swim, basically. And then I just carried on. I was quite good at it. I ended up in a team racing as short as possible. If anybody ever meets me, I'm 5'0", and I needed as short a distance as humanly possible. And ended up swimming butterfly. Swam really well. Swam at national level. I was ranked XYZ as a youngster. Whilst I was swimming, played football. Was okay, probably not amazing. I was at Bradford City in their youth system a little bit. Me and another kid called Josh. Actually, we lived 5 minutes from each other, and we used to go to Bradford City youth stuff together. So we were okay. We were good footballers. And then maybe a Saturday or a Sunday morning, maybe my dad said, "We're going to the rugby club. Let's see if you're any good at that," basically. And weirdly, at that time, I was kicking and screaming. I was like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to play rugby. It was freezing cold. It was on the rugby clubs. I'll give them a plug. It's Old Broadleians in Halifax. They're a great youth club and a great men's club, just a great community centre. And I didn't want to go. I went first session. I was like, this is okay. Second session I went to, I was like, I am in love with this game. And that was it. Basically, I put swimming on the back burner. Football went on the back burner, and I played rugby completely. And so even though there was some success with swimming and I was reasonably good at it, and obviously football in England and very much in the UK, in the north as well. I'm in between Leeds and Manchester. That's football sort of is the king there. And even though I could have played it, who knows to what level, but I was just enjoying playing it. I put it on the back burner because rugby was the focus then, and played a lot of rugby. Went to that Bodleians team was very good, and we went and won a load of stuff. I eventually ended up at England, playing at Leeds Tykes at the time. Played some rugby league at a national standard as well. Played for Great Britain as a junior, and I then got into track and field. I went to the track to try and get quick for rugby. Turns out I was reasonably good on the track. Ran a 400 that was quick purely by accident. Had no idea what I was doing.
and do you know, it's fun. It's great, isn't it? Because you're just talking there about the beauty of doing multi-sports. And I mean, swimming's a great base for just about any sport anyway, any land sport, in terms of cardiovascular capacity and ability to keep pushing. But from swimming, rugby union, rugby league, football, and you and now sort of this track base. It sounds like, just as a youngster, sport was it. You were an athlete. You had natural acceleration and sort of control of your body.
Yeah, I at that time, and I think probably your good athletes. You take any footballer, any rugby player right now, you boil them down to that period. They're probably quite good at almost everything. I remember doing PE at school, and just any game that came up, I could figure it out within about 10 minutes, whether that was rounders or cricket or hockey or whatever. Gymnastics was a really good one. I remember going to a gymnastics through PE to a gymnastics school, and they were like, "You're really good at this. Why don't you stay and join the team?" And I was like, "I have no interest in gymnastics." But sport was my everything. Like I did nothing else other than sport from like 10 years old to 18, 19, 20.
Hi, I want to take this moment to thank Upskilled and their mini MBA for sponsoring this week's session. One of the great things about their mini MBA is it allows you to gain the skills and knowledge to help propel you that little bit further forward. It gets you understanding the vocabulary in the room, and also gives you some of those skills to navigate the corporate career, the government career, or indeed stepping into not-for-profit. So big thanks for Upskilled and the mini MBA for sponsoring this week. And hey, check it out. Link in the show notes. You can get $500 off. Yeah. So tell me then, as you were kicking through, you started to have to make, choice. You started to have to make a choice about which sports were you really looking to take you through to that next level. When was that, and what was sort of the trigger for you?
So anybody in my sort of really close circle knows I made some really, really difficult decisions around sport. The swimming one, I'm never going to be a swimmer. I was good at it. I was never going to be, and there's no real career unless you are 0.0%. So that was never going to be me. I don't think I was a good enough footballer to go anywhere with that. So that was kind of comfortable as well. The rugby and the track and the rugby league, actually. So when you were a youngster, rugby league, I'd played under 14s Great Britain. So I'm 13, 14 years old. People try and sign you to their academies. And I had like Leeds, Bradford, Wigan were my sort of contract offers. And I held out because I was playing rugby union as well. And rugby union don't come in until 16. So, or 15, 16. So I'd held out there. So that was a difficult decision. I eventually went Leeds, and I was Leeds Rhinos and Leeds Tykes, which was lucky. And then the track and the rugby thing, this is where it got really complicated because I'd run good track. I was in 3 national finals in a year, 3 styles of national final. And then the next year, I was training maybe twice a week, if that. And I was in national 400 meter finals against guys who were training 6 times a week, twice a day. And I was just sort of mucking around with it. if I'm honest, I was training really hard. I'm very good at training. Like, you give me a session, I'll knock it out of the park. But I wasn't really concentrating on it, and that's where the decision came in. So I played England 16, and I ran 3 national finals that same year. And we sat down. Maybe I was still at Leeds at this point, and I'd sat down with the academy coach and been like, "Look, I think I previously sat down with my dad and stuff and gone through that decision whether it was, do I stick with rugby and that's it, because I'll never be able to go back to the track once I start piling some pounds on and sort of going through that contact. I'll never be able to go back, or do I go and run track for a year or two and figure out if I'm any good at it and really train twice a week and more than twice a week, sorry. And then I could always go back to rugby. I could always go and put some size on. I could always go pick the game back up. I had the understanding. I had the ability. And we made that decision in the end. So we sat down, we went through it all, and we went and told my academy manager that I wasn't going to play again for at least a year. So I stepped out of the highest level of rugby that age group could play. My peers in that team were Owen Farrell, George Ford. Like, those are now your 100 cap England guys. And I stepped out of that group to go and run track. Trained for a couple of years. I eventually ran really quickly. I finished at 48.8. 48.4, sorry, 48.4. So a little bit quicker. I finished at 48.4, and I was ranked 6 to 10 to 12 in the country. I ran a bunch of finals, collected a bunch of medals at the north of England and whatnot. So I had a really good, short, but really good career on the track. And I met some of the best people I've met in my life. I met some amazing athletes.
And so as you were going through that, where did you want, I mean, this is you 16, 17, right?
16, 17, yeah.
Yeah. And what did you, so then what changed? Because I'm interested, what were you hoping to achieve then through track, but then what shifted?
So, do you know what? It was more of just giving it a crack. I just didn't think I'd given it a fair crack. I felt like I was just sort of half and half in it. And I was like, I just wonder what I could do and how fast I could go if I really train. And I got quick. 48.4 was quick. Again, I'm 5-0. Like, it makes no sense.
Your legs are going at a very fast pace.
Yeah, they're turning over. And I just thought, I just wonder how quick I could go. And national finals were great. I was in that same circle. I was training with some really great athletes. I was being in the groups that I should be in. I went to a national training group in Birmingham with the best 400-meter runners in the country. And I was hanging in the session. And I was like, I could do this. I didn't really think this is my career. Like, I knew that wasn't my career. I wasn't going to go and race for Great Britain, and I wasn't going to the Olympics, and I wasn't going to make my money from it. I just really wanted to see how far I could push it. And as the time went on, I ran 48.4, and then probably ran another few 48s. And I was like, unless I change everything, I'm going to have to lose a bunch of weight. I'm going to have to train like a pro, buy all in. Then I won't reach anything that's going to make sense here. So that's when I went back to rugby. And I was playing a couple of games in between it's called the A-League. It's the level below the Prem. It's like the Prem reserves, if I can, that's a better way of describing it. And I played a couple of games, and I was like, oh, I'm still okay. Like, I can still play. The physicality was fine. The speed was great, obviously. And I was like, I can still play rugby. I'm going to go back to rugby and hopefully go and make a crack of rugby.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so what decisions did you have to make then to get back into rugby at that time?
So I'd been training the whole time I was running track. I would go and do a Saturday morning skill session with a coach that I had worked with previously. So we were paying him. Me and my brother both went, and we would go and train one-on-one with this guy. And he was a skills coach at Sale Sharks at the time, but he was our good friend, and he's a bit of a wizard. His son played full pro as well. His son's very good. A guy called Phil Leck, and we were training with him constantly. So we were seeing him for skills. And when the conversation about coming back to rugby happened, I sat with Phil, and Phil was like, look, let's get you in front of Sale and see if they are interested. And I played an A-League game for those guys. I seem to remember this. I talked about this recently to somebody. And I caught a ball at fullback, chipped and chased, caught the ball, chipped and chased again, caught the ball, and got caught right in the corner off about an 80. And I just thought, I'm gonna, if I can buy in and get some games under my belt, I'm gonna be all right. And that was my trial game at Sale, and they were like, why don't you come in and train with us a little bit? So I went back to play at Sale, played some A-League games, played one first team preseason game. And that was sort of my thing. Then I was playing rugby, and then it changes again then. So the next step would be then what's next, and that's when America came in.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested first academically. Where was school? Where was college? What was going on from that side through this period?
So finished school at 17. So I did my GCSEs. I'd planned to go to a different school for my A-levels to go and play rugby full time. In one of these like ACE leagues, if you see that. So that was my plan. And then I ran track instead, so that plan fell through.
Yeah. Well, how did you fund your life at that point?
The track stuff was tough. I got grants through. There was a grant, a national lottery grant that we used to get, and that would just about cover me. And then I went and worked. I did summer jobs, basically. I worked for my dad's galvanizing plant, which was fun. Middle of Bradford. Middle of Bradford, galvanizing plant as like a 15-year-old lad on the bins, like galvanizing bins. So that was an awakening. And then I worked a bit of construction, and then I got a job at a sports shop in Bradford. So I worked part-time. And I basically broke even, if I'm honest with you. So there's no money getting put away.
So then what brought America down the path? Because you've done track, you're now in this view of saying, right, I'm giving rugby a shot. 18 years old, you're thinking, right, let's go for it. Why didn't you pursue something in England? What took this big leap to go overseas?
Yeah, so I'd played, I was at Sale, and I remember having a conversation with the then director of rugby, and it was, you're never going to play. Like, you're too small, you're 5-0, and I'm technically a centre. I was playing in the centre wing, and he was like, you're not big enough for us. And I was like, well, I can't get any bigger. Like, I can't grow. So is that going to limit my playing time? He's like, yeah, very much so. Like, ain't going to happen. So, right, well, I'd best find a new club. So I'd had that little moment of freedom where I was like, oh, I'm not attached. I'm not signed to anybody. I'm going to have a look around. And actually, through this same skills coach, Phil, he had spoke to an Italian club. They were called Aironi at the time. And there was a possibility of a 3-year contract out there. And I was like, oh, amazing. I'll just bounce to Italy. I'll go and figure it out in Italy. Like, I'll go play some rugby, I'll figure out my life, whatever. I'll cross bridges when I get to them. Contract fell through the week before I was supposed to fly because of a discrepancy of age. I said, I'm a 92 birthday, and they thought they'd written down or thought I was 93, which would have changed my eligibility to become Italian. So Italian citizenship would have taken 5 rather than 3 years. So they were like, oh, no contract. So now I'm free again, and I'm packed. My bags are packed. I'm ready to roll. And I'd played with an American in Sale, and he lived in Chicago. And he called me, and he was like, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. I'm sat at my friend's house. My bags are packed. He's like, do you want to come to Chicago for 3 months, play some rugby? I was like, I absolutely do, yeah. And I decided, I didn't consult anybody. I decided on the phone that night, booked those flights. I actually stayed at my friend's house that night and then went back to my parents in the morning and was like, "Hey, look, I'm going to Chicago," and they were like,
Okay.
"What?" I think I'm
Said
20.
habitually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I've just turned 20, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to go. Like 3 months, I'm going to go. I'm going to figure it out, and then we'll see what happens next." So,
Yeah.
flew out maybe that week.
I mean, that's I mean, quite brave in terms of jumping out and just going. I mean, you've got a friend to help settle you, which is obviously
Yeah,
fantastic. Did you think beyond the three, as you look back, did you think beyond the 3 months about what might follow? Or was it get out, play for a season?
really. I'd like to think I thought about it. Knowing me and how I act, I would think, and most likely thought, I'll just go out and I'll figure it out. I'll meet somebody. I'll find somebody. We both know what rugby clubs are like, and you can walk into a rugby club and get a job the next day. It just happens that way. So I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to go and figure it out. And I'll meet somebody. And I eventually, obviously, did. I met everybody in the rest of my life here. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. And if I don't like it, I can always come home. Like I'm not moving to
If you
Mars. I'm going to Chicago. It's a flight away.
I'm with you. I'm so with you. I have that same mantra in my mind. The worst thing that happens is I go back. I go back to Leeds.
Yeah, yeah,
I go home. And I think there's something about having a place of I'll say safety or
yeah,
a spot where you can always go back to in the back, whether it's real or not. But it's having that sort of surety just helps you sometimes make those leaps to jump even further.
yeah.
And so for you landing then Chicago, I guess sort of moving forward, how did you manage to settle? What were you doing for work? What were you doing for play? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I will speak so highly of Chicago. It's my second home. I moved into the rugby club used to own a bar, and then the apartment was on top of the bar. So we had four rooms in that apartment, and it was as soon as I got there, it was full of rugby players. There was four lads already there. They'd one of my best friends. I moved straight in with him. He's an amazing player and a great coach and a good dude, and a guy called Andrew Sunula. He comes from a really famous sort of New Zealand family, and he'd played a bunch. He's got brothers everywhere, and I got there day one. I'm little English kid, just got off a plane, and he turned around. He turned straight to me and was like, "You want some dinner?" I was like, "Yeah, do you?" And he cooked up a bunch of chicken and rice, and I sat down and we honestly, I remember that first dinner, and I sat with these three lads who I'd never met, and it was just normal. It just felt normal. It just felt like we were just like my friends. So I got really lucky,
Yeah,
and I think people do get lucky like that because that's what sport is. And I think we're very welcoming. All sports people, we're very, very welcoming, and especially when you've got someone coming in, we're all very welcoming. And these guys, that Chicago Griffins team, took me in. I went to Christmases at someone's house. I went to Easter at someone else's, Thanksgiving at someone else's parents, and I was like a little lost child. And they looked after me really well, and my familiarity just was with the rugby, and I was like, you know what, I'm good at this, and I'm now at a grade where I can sort of teach it back. I'd been coaching previous, but I'm now at a real grade where I can teach people who maybe have never even seen a ball before. So that gave me some familiarity of coaching and giving back, and it wasn't like I was the new guy just sponging. I was helping the community as well. So that was what I was doing, coaching.
right.
And then I worked that bar, a wonderful bar called the Black Rock. It's been knocked down since, but that bar, it's like it's your house and it's work and it's the communal place of the Griffins. So that
Yeah,
place really settled me in.
yeah. I mean, that's brilliant. It does sound like a fantastic period, and
Oof.
it's one of the bits you get in overseas or into new environments, should I say? And sport, I've always said, is this sort of like is a gateway. It's a passport to so many other things, and you're able to integrate so quickly around sport because it's something really common language, behaviours, expectations with teammates. That really does work.
Yeah.
And so when you then look at, um, you know, where did you think sport could take you when you were there? What did you start to see as sort of potential futures for yourself?
Yeah, so then I think that's where it transitions. I'm in America then, and I'm like, all right, there is no pro rugby at this time in America, and I was like, okay, now I need to make rugby needs to be my vessel to meet people, which it was, and B, I'm different. I'm English in the middle of Chicago. There's not a heap of us. There's a few of us, but there's not loads of us, and I need to make that count. So that's when I started to use rugby as like a vessel. So I would go to places with the rugby team or with some of the rugby guys, the Chicago guys, and I would go to events. I would go and speak to people. And my view then is like, okay, who can I make good friends with, good enough friends with that they're like, hey, you know what? Why don't you come work for us? And if that's a consulting job, a sales job, a technical job, whatever that is, I've always sort of got whether this is good or bad, I have a bit of a view of whatever it is, I'll figure it out. Doesn't matter, sport, job, interaction, people, I'll figure it out. And I sort of leaned into that using the sport. So I kept the sport as this is my vehicle to go and do things outside of sport, but knowing that sport was not going to be the career anymore. Like I'm not going to make sport the career.
Yeah. Well, how hard was it coming to that realization at the time?
Tough, yeah. And do you know what I think personally is the toughest part of it is all my conversations about being any good at this game are now 10 years, 15 years ago. And now I'm like an old has-been trying to talk about the past, even though it's mine and I've done it and you know how it is. And I had to work my butt off to get all that stuff and nothing was handed to me. I still have to talk about it 10 years ago. And I'm like, I used to be. That's a really tough part of it.
Right.
But once you get a bit older, I think you start to see. I think what works really well for me is numbers of people who make it, and if you can put that in your brain, like football is insane. I think I read a stat the other day. Tony Poulis back at home is trying to fix the academy system, and he put out a number the other day, and it's like 97% of academy players do not play pro in England, and that number that's just madness. If 3% are only making pro football, then you kind of have to sit with yourself sometimes and be like, okay, 3%, and I just wasn't in that 3%. Like that's just how it goes. Like unless you are that top of the grade and you stick with it and you make all the right decisions, and to sort of anchor back, maybe when I was 16 and playing with Owen and George, had I have stayed, maybe things would have been different down the line. But I made my decision and it got me a load of other positive things on the other side of it. I've got track guys that I can call tonight if I need to. And it's just that you have to stack all those right decisions to be in that 3%. And if you get one wrong and it doesn't equal that end goal, but gives you a bunch of other things, then, so be it. And as you get a little bit older, it evens out, I think.
Yes, it does. And some of it is about, kind of to your point, bringing some of those lessons with you. And what you did in Chicago, and indeed what you continue to do, is you're giving back some of those lessons that you've had. Because along that way, being in the top 4%, 5%, 6% is still massive when you start looking at, where we're trying to get to. Because that 100% of kids in an academy system, I'm going to say in just about any sport, you're right, it will grow and shrink based on the popularity and participation of the game. But what you're saying is, 97% of those who are already at an elite level by age group don't make it. But for many, making it into an academy system gives you the lessons, demonstrates a point of discipline, a point of natural ability in some respects that the rest of the population don't have. So recognizing where you've already got to even get into that number in itself is a great thing. Hard to take, right? But is still a fantastic achievement.
And I really do. And I'm sure people told me this when I was coming up. Age helps with this. Like, it really, really does help. And now I'm in a position where I'm coaching university athletes, so 18, 19-year-olds, and I have to do recruitment calls with prospective students who want to come and play at the university. And I am now in a position where I know exactly what they're thinking. I know verbatim what is going on in their head. I'm going to be a pro. I'm going to play professional rugby for the rest of my life, and I'm going to sack off school. I don't need to do it. And now I sit in this chair where I go, mate, I know what you're thinking, like almost to the T. Just, it's about being a little bit smarter than I was. And if I can get 60 kids, 80 kids, 100 kids to do that, then I'm doing my job right, you know?
Yeah, that would be a huge impact. And look, and that's why we're having this conversation, if anything, to get our lessons learned out there for people to watch, for people to hear for themselves the stories, right? And your perspective, your story is so important because you're now coming back full circle to, speaking to what you wanted to hear. Well, you probably didn't want to hear it yourself when we were 18, but it's been part of that. So now I'm interested though. You talk about because I'm interested in how you got into your PT and sort of how that sort of sets up, and then but also the type of role you've got in recruitment. So talk me through trying to get back to that point in the interview. You were doing PT, you were building some of this experience. Just talk to us a bit about how that started to emerge for you.
Yeah, so doing that PT, it took a lot of like, I'm confident, but it took like basically all my confidence to try that first one. My first client, I had no idea what I was doing in terms of collecting that client. I somehow got involved. I got introduced to this lady who wanted some personal training, and I, off my own back, designed a personal training package, put it on I was on a little iPad at the time, went and met her for coffee, did a sales pitch where I was terrible. The pricing, looking back, I now know it very intimately, the PT game. Pricing was all wrong. The packages were poor. It was way too cheap. And all I wanted was her just to say yes and buy something. And she ended up doing it. And I was like, I remember sort of bumbling my way through it, being like, oh, she's not going to buy this. This is stupid. And then she bought it, paid for the packages. I trained her for like 3 years post that. And she was an awesome client, worked really hard. And I remember leaving that coffee shop being like, oh, I can do this. Like, I've done way scarier stuff playing rugby. Like, I've played against full internationals, barbarians. Like, I can sit with somebody and have a conversation about personal training. I know training. So that first one took a lot of confidence. And then once I got my rhythm with that, the PT was really good. It just sort of became, I can help you. Like, let me help you. This is what it costs. To simplify it. And then going into management, it's coaching again. Like, it's just me teaching that back to the personal trainers. Obviously managing a big business there. And it was,
but was that something, I guess, as a coach or personal trainer, would you've, you link that straight to coaching. You're able to see, well, actually being a manager is just like organizing a team. Did you think that at the time, or did you just sort of jump in and think, right, what do I do? What can I pick up from rugby that's going to help me here?
I think I had an idea of it. Like, I know I've managed teams. This was all my PT stuff was in Chicago in America, and then when I moved to Canada, that's when I became a manager. So I'd had a little bit of experience, so, plus all the rugby stuff, and then I got a team of post-pandemic. I got a team of maybe 8 trainers and grew it to 20 or whatever, and we were doing a couple million rev, and we were doing good stuff. But I always knew it was very similar to coaching sport. Like, it's the same thing. And the same thing then goes into like a PT team. We use it as something I will tell people. It's like a football team. I use American football because I'm over here now, but I would be like, it's like a football team. I can't have 10 quarterbacks. I need to go out and find myself a quarterback, a couple of wide receivers, a couple of O linemen, a couple of D linemen. And that tells you your style of people that you employ. So when I build a personal training team, I need to make a full team, so that sort of guides my recruitment then, and my hiring and sort of process there. And it all can be related to sport, in my opinion. And if you've got that, and you've done the coaching, or you've been in the system, you kind of know a lot about the business anyway. Like,
Yeah.
sort of the underlying themes of it all. Now it's just about, how do you translate that into corporate real world experience?
Yeah. And how did you do that?
So initially, I got really well trained at Equinox when I'd gone through their training system. But a lot of it, I was like, I get this. Like, it makes sense. I know how to emotionally look after people through sport. Like, if I'm a head coach of a team and I've got someone who's having a terrible day, I don't need to jump on them for the tiniest mistake. That's not going to make sense. It's going to spiral out their day. I need to, maybe this one's a put an arm around the shoulder and we figure it out together. If I've got someone who responds really well to, on the rugby field, somebody who just wants direct feedback, this, I need you to improve this, then maybe that's a person in my training team as well. And as a personal trainer, they want the facts. They don't want to sit down and talk for 40 minutes about things. They want to go, what did I do well? What can I improve on? How do I get back out there? So it could translate that way as a coach and then as a manager. And then the biggest thing you have to learn is business then. So then you start to look at numbers. Like, what numbers equal what? How can I look at a page full of numbers? We would call it like a dashboard. How do I look at a dashboard and tell you how healthy that club is based on that dashboard? That was felt like going back to school, if I'm honest with you. That felt like I had to sit down, concentrate, study, understand, and then apply.
Which is fair. I mean, it is. You had to learn, right? And how prepared are you then to take what you know and what you have previously learned, and then put this into a new environment, into a new context of sorts? And so that sounds like, that's the process that you followed.
Yeah, and I was in a better mindset to learn. I, at 16, 17, did not care. I thought I'd done it. I was like, I'm going to play. I was picking up a bit of money playing rugby. I was in school in my England stash, which is an absolute crime looking back at that. And I was like, this is it. I'm good. I'm going to play forever. And I just had no interest in school, as many of my teachers would let you know. I just had no interest. But now, fast forward to that time of learning the business and the practical application of it. And I think it really helps when it's real for myself. Right? I need to be in it. I need it to be effective and real. And I was managing a couple of $1 million worth of business. So I was like, all right, this is real. I get this. Like, I see that change,
And so as you're, so I see that now building on a career perspective. You're getting management level, management experience, and like you say, you're running a $1 million plus P&L, right? So those 7 figures are growing, which is excellent. That connection to rugby and finding your way into university, into that role, how did that come about?
Yeah, so I'm in this job. I'm actually coaching. So when I moved, if ever I move, I'll always reach out and speak to some rugby clubs first. And I'd emailed a bunch of rugby clubs saying, hey, does anybody want some help playing, coaching? And I was coaching at the time. I was coaching a men's team in Division 2, so a little bit lower standard. And I'd gone in and gone full sergeant major. Let's fitness this thing. I remember these lads looking at me and being like, yeah, we're here to play on a Saturday, and that's about it. And I was like, I read the room wrong. And then this university job popped up. I knew the guy who was leaving, and he'd heard of myself through some other rugby guys. And I'd got asked if I'd be interested or want to come and have a look at it. And do you know what? It was about giving back for me. So it was my chance to, like, I've had such an amazing experience through rugby and been all over the world, New Zealand, Australia, America. Like, I've had such a great experience, and it really felt like a good time to give back to the game. And it's a very prestigious role as well. It is Canada's #1 academic university. Like, it's a powerhouse university, and the rugby was, at the time, it was in a bit of a struggle state. So they'd not won a game for a long time, and I just thought, A, I can give back, and B, I was like, this is a challenge. Like, if they haven't won a game in X amount of years, I was like, I could get them some wins for sure. And it was a bit of a challenge, and that came around. That was a rigorous interview as well. So 3 rounds, 5-year, you had to write a 5-year plan. So I had to sort of project what I think I was going to do there. And then
how do you do that for the first time? Someone says to you, 5-year plan. It's like, because we talk here about you not thinking 12 weeks ahead. Never mind here now. We're pushing for a 5-year plan.
Yeah. So I remember writing out the seasons, and I had it all written. I pen and papered it, and I had all the seasons written out. And I was like, okay, they've not won a game. They're bottom of the league. How do I fix that in season 1? And I was like, okay, we've got to get fit. We've got to have a style and an understanding of what our sort of style is. And then we need to pick off at least one game we think we can win. And that was my season 1. I was like, all right, I'll flesh that out later. My season 2 is this. And I just sort of wrote what I think we needed, what I think they needed, and then a result at the end of it. And we exceeded in both my first 2 years. We've just finished year 3. So the first 2 years we exceeded what I thought we would do. And this last season we've performed really well. So I sort of just went through that process. What do I think they need? What do I think the system or what style should be? And then what does that result look like? And through the interview process, I sort of talked my philosophy of rugby and my understanding of it, and ended up with the role. And it's been and is one of my most rewarding things I've done.
And listen, congratulations for landing that role. And I applaud the way you took that 5-year plan and broke it down first into seasons. As athletes, we operate by season. And then you took it down to game. The objective, is winning games, but let's break it down to winning a game. Who could that be, and targeting it? And it's great how sport always helps. We always use that, but it means that we can use a language that we understand by saying, well, it's your season, it's the next game, it's your block of games, it's therefore training and fundamentals. And you're not going to make any turnaround possible without focusing on, like you did, those fundamentals of fitness, strength, fitness, and philosophy. I guess those values that really are playing through. I think that's a great breakdown.
And that bleeds back into work as well. Like, if you give me 20 trainers, what do we want to be as trainers? Do we want to be an also-ran team, or do we want to be like the training team in the city? And I used to preach that. I've worked at a few gyms now, and every gym I go to, I get the training teams together. And I was like, my goal is to have the best training team in the city. I want everybody to look at us and be like, oh, those guys are good. And see how it's very similar to sport. I want my sports teams to be like that as well. Like, I want my training team to be like that. I want my whatever business I eventually end up with. If I end up with a 20-man sales team, I want my sales team to be known as the best sales team in the business. So it's about pride and standards and a philosophy of a sort of a team, I guess.
Yeah, it's great. Plenty there to take away. And Josh, then you're in a job now where you get to speak to future talent, and you gave a little snippet there of how you talked to them about thinking, hey, a little bit just beyond the game. But what kind of conversations do you sort of have with them, or how do you get them to think a little bit beyond, hey, you come in here, you can be a pro, and you can be a billionaire off the back of it, or maybe not?
Yeah, so I go through a slideshow with all new recruits, and in that slideshow, the first slide is about academics. So obviously there's an opening page, but the first slide is academics, and I lead with So when I do these presentations as well, it could be just me and prospective student. It could also be me, prospective students, and 2 parents, 3 parents, whatever, 1 parent. Like, I could be on with parents, and I have to lead with academics because I know my audience. The kid is thinking, I'm going to be a pro forever. The parents are like, oh my God, I'm going to send my kid away to school. And we get international students. So I have students from Singapore, Japan, England, Scotland. I have students from across the world, and they come to the university, and I have to make sure that everybody's comfortable in a goal. So for the parents, it's academics. They want if they're going to send their kid to U of T, they want a degree that makes sense, recognized by one of the best universities in the world. So I have to play to that. They have to know that that's part of my goal as well. I have to know that the kid wants to play rugby, but he has to be academically almost perfect if he wants to play rugby. We hold very high standards in my team, where if I get any sort of note, call, instruction from school about school, then we have a really tough conversation at training. School comes first. And 18-year-old me would have never even thought about that sentence. But now I'm the one who has to deliver that information. So it's a real sort of full circle moment. And I think I try and put myself in other people's shoes when I talk to them, whatever the conversation that is. If I'm one of those parents, that would make me feel so comfortable that someone who has essentially made that mistake is now able to see that mistake and then warn about that mistake, you know?
Mm-hmm. Just as take it from a tangent there, do you see your path as a mistake?
No, I wouldn't be where I was if I hadn't have done what I've done. I think in a traditional sense, maybe, right? I didn't go to university. I didn't even look at it. I just was like, I'm out. And from a traditional sense, I would think if you were to poll 100, 70 would say that's possibly a mistake, not going to school, not going to further education. In my opinion, I will never admit to that because I've got a world of experience. I've met some of the coolest people you'll ever think of. I'm friends with people that I would have never have made friends with. So I've had a great time. And I would say it's not a mistake, but traditionally, possibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. As in, so if, cutting in, what you are also saying is the advice, or based on your experience, continuing, a bit like we opened up before we started pressing record about not retiring from playing, playing for as long as our bodies will take us. Ego aside, you just got to keep playing, and we're good enough to stay at the top. But what you are saying is a similar bit comes from formal education or traditional education, which is if you can keep something going, keep it going, keep studying, and don't put them to the side fully.
Yeah, if you have the opportunity, and I'm very lucky that I get to speak about University of Toronto. Like it's academically amazing. So I'm very, very lucky that these are my conversations. Like if you have the opportunity to come to this university, absolutely come to this university. You're going to get a degree that will open any door anywhere, basically. Once people see it, we call it the tea leaf, this thing, just people see the tea leaf on a stamp on a degree, it's a door opener for sure. So I'd say if you can.
And it's interesting because, where West Yorkshire, where we're coming from, it hasn't been a typical path, right? Certainly down a rugby view, it's play pro. It's stay in England, play pro, do those leagues. And what you are literally living right now is opening that doorway to see there's another path, to see sport as that vehicle to give you fulfillment in life and take you further. Yeah,
I think had I have gone to university and got a degree, would I be where I am? No chance. I think I would I would most likely have gone and played rugby league in Halifax, at Leeds, at somewhere around there. I would have got myself a job with that degree, and I would have sort of lived in that sphere. I would have never ventured abroad. Whereas not having that, I've gone and seen half the world. I've met amazing people, and I live in a completely different country with an amazing job now sort of giving back to that sport community.
Yeah. That's which is really powerful. It's that also trusting the sport of community in the community of sport. Is that right? Yeah, trust in it as well. And you do the right thing by it. It'll probably do right by you.
Yeah, I will advocate for rugby and say that it's one of the last few like ultimate communities. You do whatever you want. I've been down to New Zealand, Australia. You walk in a bar, you meet people, shake hands. I went on Lions tour this year, and I was down in Australia for a couple of weeks with some South African guys who live in Australia. It was amazing, and we could go anywhere and meet people and sit down and have a drink with them and talk like we probably knew each other. It just is one of those last great communities, and all sport has it. I just know the rugby one really well, and if you buy into it, it certainly buys into you back.
So true. Well said. So look, Josh, coming up to the end of our of this chat, and we've probably covered a lot of the topics. We maybe have gone through it, but looking at your experience, your I guess bringing your perspective, what guidance do you give to athletes who are perhaps at this crossroad, especially young athletes at a crossroad, thinking, how do I go next? How do I get the best out of sport to help me set myself up in life? What guidance would you give to them?
Yeah, so I think I wish somebody had have told me to go and meet more people earlier. We get, and I'm sure this was probably the same for yourself, like we get in these, especially when we're 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, we live in these same groups, which is great. Those boys are the best. I'm still best friends with my guys from Halifax. And I just think it's really important that you get outside that and meet different people from different spots. Go and meet some guys from take a town over. Go find a rugby club and just reach out. We have so many ways now to reach out to people and speak to people. You can LinkedIn people, Facebook people, Instagram people. There are so many ways to reach out and just start a conversation. You would be surprised how many people are interested in talking to you. Like you can shoot a message to people and they'll speak back to you. So I think I wish somebody had told me that earlier and go and make a bunch of really healthy connections, because those are ultimately what pay off. Like if you go to school, don't go to school, get a degree, learn all this practical application of stuff, you're going to need somebody to help you out and point you in the right direction, or even if it's somebody to introduce you to somebody else, you need those connections. So I think go and start meeting people and shaking hands and just being good to the people around you, you know?
Josh, right, well said. I got to say thank you very much for bringing your perspective and sharing a lot of your experience with me on the show. And I'm sure everyone's going to be wanting to reach out and try and follow your journey. What's the best place for them to find you? So
I'm on LinkedIn. It's now the absolute communicator, isn't it? So I can be found on LinkedIn. It's just Josh Allan. I think it's Josh Allan Director. So I can be found on there. And then I am on, if somebody's on Instagram, they can find me on there. It's just Coach Josh Allan. And I think I can't preach what I just said without being able to reach back out as well, you know? So if there are people out there and they're in that sport, or they're thinking about moving abroad or trying university or just want advice in general, I've kind of I've made a lot of mistakes, which now mean I can give a lot of good answers, you know, and I would much rather save somebody from it than let them sort of stomp through it like I did.
Brilliant. Josh, well, listen, that's what this is all about. So thanks again for your time. It's been absolutely great to share this hour with you.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. I think you're doing a great thing here.